Hi, I'm Jessie Taylor. Thank you for joining me for this mindfulness meditation practice today. Before we begin, I thought I'd take a moment to introduce myself and introduce the practice and what we'll be doing and why we do it. So, as I mentioned, my name is Jessie Taylor. I'm one of the founding directors of the Mindfulness Center. We are an online health and wellness institute offering charitable and educational programs in mindfulness and other health practices, including classes, seminars, and trainings. I'm also our educational director as well as a yoga and meditation instructor. And it's just absolutely one of my favorite things to do to get to teach worksite wellness programs such as this, because I love sharing how these very simple and accessible practices can help us to feel so much better physically, mentally, and emotionally, even and especially when we're at work, where we might otherwise sometimes feel stressed or overwhelmed. So I look forward to sharing this practice with you. So what is mindfulness meditation? So those two words can be used synonymously. Mindfulness is a state of mind, and meditation is a practice. So we use the practice of meditation to develop a more mindful state of mind. And so what is mindfulness? This is probably a term that you've heard before, but you may or may not be familiar with what it actually means. So one definition of mindfulness is present-minded, non-judgmental, interoceptive awareness. So that's kind of a wordy definition. It doesn't necessarily give a very practical meaning. So a more practical definition of mindfulness is to simply be aware in the moment of the sensory experience of what you're feeling in your body in the moment. So that is in fact a very simple thing, and yet the benefits can be quite profound. And so how does simply noticing how you're feeling, noticing the sensations and the sensory experiences in the moment without judging or reacting, just noticing, how does that create a huge benefit? And so it can be helpful to understand that mindfulness is essentially the opposite to stress. And I would venture to say that most of you, if not all of you, have experienced stress before, right? It's a little all too prevalent these days. And in fact, many of us experience stress a lot of the time, or seemingly even almost all the time, right? And so that's when stress can become an issue. A little bit of stress, acute stress in the moment, can be helpful. It's actually a survival mechanism that's meant to warn us of danger and help us to react. And in a practical sense, just a little bit of stress, we might not even call it stress when there's just a little bit, we might call it motivation. That can help us to be motivated to do a project or be on deadline. So acute stress is not a problem. But when we have chronic stress, as many of us do experience, that's when we can see detriment to our physical, mental, and emotional health, because the brain essentially interprets stress as danger. The brain does a really good job at reacting to stress. It doesn't do a very good job at differentiating between regular everyday stressors and actual threat to our well-being. The brain and the body react to stress the same way. And so that is to initiate the stress response, or what we call the fight or flight response. And in that stress response, the brain tells the body to take energy away from normal kind of homeostasis and health and wellness systems, and put that energy into having energy to essentially run or fight, that fight or flight, those fight or flight systems. And so we see an increase in adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormones. We see actually a reduction in the immune system, impairment of the digestive system. Our hormones become skewed. Even our ability to focus and concentrate is diminished. And so we can see major health implications from long-term stress. But if mindfulness is essentially the opposite to stress, that can help to reverse some of that detriment of chronic stress. And so this is how this simple act of being present in the moment and just noticing what you're feeling in your body, noticing your breath, noticing how that feels, noticing the sensations or emotions in the present moment, actually flips a switch in the brain and tells the brain that we're safe. If it's safe to feel into the body, and usually when we're experiencing stress, although we might have a lot to do, we're usually, in fact, safe, right? If you weren't safe, then I'd listen to that stress response and go get safe, right? But usually we're safe. And when we feel into the body, we notice that and we flip that switch in the brain, which says we are now safe and we can relax and we can put energy back into those healing systems. So we see the immune system is improved, digestion improves, hormones rebalance, even cognitive functions like executive functioning, rational decision making, creative problem solving, emotional regulation, and even happiness and joy improve with regular mindfulness practice. So how does that sound? Does that sound like something you'd like to give a try? I know I would. Okay, great. So to begin our practice now, the first thing that I will mention is our posture. It's actually important in our meditation practice to make sure that we have a nice straight posture. Typical seated posture can tend to be kind of rounded or hunched, which rounds the shoulders forward and puts pressure on the heart and lungs, making it harder for them to do their job. And then in order to look forward, we have to do this, which actually compresses the back of the neck. So when we come into a more neutral alignment of the spine, this releases any restriction around the breath and aligns the neck better so that there's no restriction of blood flow and oxygen to the brain. One of the other things that we do and always incorporate into a mindfulness or meditation practice is awareness of the breath. And this is because as we become aware of the breath, it begins to slow down. And when we slow the breath down, that reinforces the message to the brain that we're safe, while also bringing additional levels of oxygen to the brain and the body so that they can better function. So we want to make sure there's no restriction to the breath or our blood flow with our posture. All right. And one other thing I like to mention is to have some sort of a cushion. If it's available to you, you might grab a pillow or something, and I like to place that right at my upper back, which helps me to sit up a little taller rather than ending up hunched or rounded. All right. And then once you've come into your comfortable position, let your eyes drift closed. We can spend a lot of our day with our attention and our awareness on other people and projects outside of ourself. And now is your time to bring your attention back to yourself. And so as your eyes drift closed and you settle into your comfortable seated position, feet flat on the floor, sitting up tall but also relaxed, let your awareness settle back into yourself. And feel free to make any further adjustments to your posture now or at any time during this practice to get more comfortable, to experience more ease. And then let your awareness come to settle upon the sensation of your breath. And simply notice your breath. No technique. It just knows what to do all on its own. The breath is always with us, but we're not always aware of it. And so take a moment now to say hello to your breath. For the first time, perhaps today or in a while. Notice its natural rise and fall, how it feels, and where you feel it. Notice the sensation of the breath as it draws in through the nose, down the throat, filling the lungs and expanding the rib cage. And the sense of release and letting go as you exhale. The shoulders draw back down. And there's a sense of release. Notice where else you feel the movement of the breath, the rise and fall in the belly, maybe even through the back of the body. If you're leaning back in your chair, you might notice the subtle movement of your back or shoulders against the back of your chair. Good. Now let the breath begin to come more deeply, fully, and slowly in and out through your nose. if that's comfortable for you, as breathing through the nose helps to further slow the breath down. And as you let the breath begin to deepen and slow, we'll offer a technique of counting your breath. As you take your next inhale, count slowly and notice whatever number you come to. And then match that number as you exhale. Good. Continue that counting for several more rounds of breath. And notice as the breath begins to slow down more and more as we settle and relax into the practice, you might be able to add a count of 1 or 2 to your inhale and exhale. This technique can be helpful as counting the breath provides just enough of a mental anchor to keep your awareness connected to the breath. If you notice that your mind wanders to thoughts, that's okay. It's the tendency of the mind. Simply notice that. Say to yourself, okay, there's me thinking about whatever it may be. And then if it would be comfortable, you can let your awareness drift back to the breath, the simple sensation of each inhale and exhale, counting your inhales and counting your exhales. Good. As you deeply explore the sensation of your breath, feeling it move through the body, the rib cage, the shoulders, the belly, and your back, know that that breath happens not only in your lungs, but from the lungs is shared with your heart, and from the beating of your heart is shared with every single muscle and cell in your body. And so you are quite literally breathing to the tips of your toes and soles of your feet, through your belly and your back, your arms and legs, and even through the mind itself. And so knowing that, we'll explore a technique of progressive muscular relaxation, observing the flow of the breath throughout the body. So releasing the technique of counting your breath now, let your awareness draw down to the soles of your feet and tips of your toes. Give a little wiggle to your toes, feeling them move inside your shoes and against the ground. And take a deep breath as you do that. Know that that movement and energy in your feet and toes is made possible by the breath, that oxygen bringing energy. So it's as if you're experiencing the flow of the breath and its energy through the soles of your feet and tips of your toes. And now with another deep breath, let them be still. Continuing to breathe deeply, fully and slowly. Notice what it's like to experience stillness through the soles of your feet and tips of your toes. Good. Now let your awareness and the breath draw up from your feet through the legs, up your shins, and past the knees, into your thighs. And bring a little movement to your legs, as if walking the legs slightly in place, lifting and lowering your heels. Notice what it's like to experience that energy and movement and the breath through your legs as you continue to breathe deeply, fully, and slowly. And then let your legs be still. Noticing what it's like to experience stillness through your legs and the lower half of your body. Relax into that, sinking a little more heavily into your chair. Good. Let your awareness now draw up through the hips to your belly and your lower back. Bring just a little energy to your core by drawing your navel towards your spine, gently engaging the abs, as if doing just the very beginning of a sit-up. And notice how that feels. To feel energy and strength through your core. And then let that go. Relax your belly and your back. Let them soften. Notice the freedom of movement for your breath to flow through the belly, that rise and fall of the breath unrestricted. Let your awareness now draw up from the space of your belly, your core, up the spine, to the space of your heart and shoulders. And bring a little energy to this space, shrugging your shoulders up towards your ears. Noticing what that's like to hold energy in your shoulders, in the space of your heart. And then let that go. Let the shoulders completely relax, melting down away from your ears, as if taking a weight off your shoulders. Breathe into that. Experiencing the freedom of movement of the breath through your shoulders as they rise and fall with each breath. And let your awareness now, along with the breath, flow down your shoulders, down your arms to the palms of your hands. Bring awareness to the sensation, the palms of your hands. Stretch your fingers out wide, feeling the energy in your hands along with your breath. And then let that go. Let the fingers curl back in gently as your hands and your arms relax in your lap or by your side. And breathe into that. A sense of ease through the space of your heart, shoulders, arms, and palms of your hands. Feel the space at the back of your heart relax as well. As your shoulder blades and upper back release any tension. And feel the breath move through that space. Good. Let your awareness now draw up from the space of the heart and shoulders, along with the breath, drawing up through the neck, past the jaw, and to your facial expression. And bring a little energy to your facial expression, drawing up the corners of your mouth into a smile. Taking a deep breath, notice how that feels. A sense of uplifting as you smile. And now let that go too. Let your expression relax into one of complete ease and restfulness. Relax your jaw, your forehead, your eyebrows, and your eyelids. Breathe into that. Relax also your ears, letting sound come to you gently. Let sound simply wash over you without seeking it out or anticipating. Just notice the way sound, like the breath, travels in the form of a wave. It approaches you, washes through your awareness, and then carries on. Let your eyes too relax. With the eyes closed, simply noticing the soft, velvety blackness at the backs of the eyelids, or perhaps lights or images of the mind's eye. If thoughts continue to drift through the mind, again, simply notice those thoughts and notice how they feel. Is there a feeling, what we call emotion, within the body associated with that thought? And by noticing how the thought feels, we've brought the awareness back to the body and the present moment. If the thoughts are distant, you might let them simply float by, like a distant conversation, or like a few clouds on an otherwise sunny day. They drift by, their shape changes, and then they're carried away on the breeze of your breath. As your body completely relaxes into this experience of stillness and ease just now, let the mind do the same. It's not that there's complete stillness, because of course in your body there's still the beating of your heart and the flow of your breath. But you get to release all effort. Let the mind do the same. There may still be distant thoughts that drift by, or sounds or images that float through your awareness. But the mind gets to be still as it takes a back seat and simply observes, releasing all effort. And in this moment, just now, simply being. And into this space, there may even arise a sensation of gratitude for the greatest gift of all, which is this moment, just now. Good. Now, as you're ready, into this space, you might bring the slightest of movements into your fingers and toes, along with the breath, noticing that energy as simply the flow of your awareness and your breath. And then let that movement come into arms and legs. As you sit up tall and stretch the arms out with a deep breath as if reawakening to a new day. And then as you're ready, we'll slowly open the eyes, letting the sights and light of this space and this moment come to you gently. And know that even as you take your awareness and your energy out back into the world around you, this space and this moment of stillness and centeredness is yours to come back to at any time, simply by bringing your awareness back to yourself and your center, noticing your breath or the sensations in the body. We had a nice little period of time here, almost a half an hour for this practice, so that's wonderful if you have that amount of time to practice mindfulness or meditation. But even if you only have a few minutes throughout your day, maybe a few minutes as you wake up in the morning or as you fall asleep at the end of the night, or even throughout your day, even and especially perhaps at a busy moment during your day, if you could just take a minute or two to bring your awareness back to your breath or the sensations in the body, I think you'll experience great benefit and greater sense of well-being. We had the opportunity with this practice to incorporate a few different mindfulness techniques or a few different aspects of meditation. We did some breath awareness and breathwork practice at the beginning, noticing our breath and the flow of the breath and counting the breath. So that's a great technique, even if you can't stop what you're doing. You could be in the middle of a business meeting, but simply noticing your breath, slowing your breath down, maybe counting the breath, and you'll find a little more ease and clarity. We also got to practice some progressive muscular relaxation, noticing the sensations throughout the body, and even some more formal mindfulness meditation, noticing the sensation of our thoughts and our mind. So notice which of these aspects of the practice worked for you, and I hope that you can come back to them throughout your day. Thank you again so much for this time together. Again, my name is Jessie Taylor of the Mindfulness Center. You can find further resources at our website, themindfulnesscenter.org, and I thank you so much for this time and sharing your practice today. Have a great rest of your day.